Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom. Can I just double check with yourself that you can see that slide okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for volunteering part of your evening to come and hear a little bit about MSD, who we are, what we do, why we do what we do, a little bit about MSD as an employer, hear from some of our students and graduates about their experiences on our programs so far, and then hear about some of the opportunities that we have to offer, both at the internship, but also at the graduate level as well. So to get started, I'm just going to run you through the short agenda because we only have an hour and that will fly by. So we have first half an hour with one of our speakers who I'm going to get to introduce himself in just a moment. He's going to go through who we are, what does MSD do and why do we do the work that we do. Then I'm very lucky to have one of our students and graduates to join us. Again, I'll get them to introduce themselves a little bit later in the presentation. I'm going to share some of their experiences to date. I have some questions for them, but if you do have some questions as well, please do either pop them in the chat or you can come off mute during the course of that section as well. And then, as I mentioned, I will be going through the application process for MSD, the opportunities that we have available in a bit more detail. And I do promise we always try to leave time at the end for Q&A. I promise we will make sure that we do leave 10 minutes at the very end for any questions that you do have. But please feel free to ask them during the course of the session through the chat function, or you can come off mute as well. Now, with that, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined this afternoon by Andrew. Andrew, if I can ask you just to introduce yourself, what you do at MSD, how long you've been at MSD, and then we're going to go through who we are and our people section of MSD. Now, Andrew, you're going to have to do the really awkward thing, which is asking me to change the slides, unfortunately, so I do apologise, but over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Chad. I'll do my best Chris Whitty impression and say next slide. So, hi everyone, I'm Andrew Riley. I'm an Associate Director within MSD UK, and I work within the Human Health Division of MSD. And as it sounds, that's the part of MSD that is responsible for the medicines that humans take. As we'll find out later on, we also have divisions that look in animal health as well. And I work in a part of the Human Health operation which deals with oncology. So like it sounds, it is all around cancer and trying to deliver innovative medicines to try and basically improve outcomes for cancer patients, both here in the UK and around the world. So I've been with MSD about 5 years. Prior to that, I was in the NHS. So I've had quite a nomadic career. I kind of been on both sides of the fence. Prior to the NHS, I was in pharmaceuticals with another company before that. And I suppose going right back to where you guys are now, I was at university in the Midlands and studied environmental studies. Postgraduate, I've studied in marketing and project management. And again, that's been supported by this industry we work in and the project management course specifically by MSD. And that's led me to my current role, where I basically work within MSD, within the oncology work, with NHS organisations as a project manager, really helping them to implement some of the new innovations and technologies that we as a company are developing and how to fit them in nicely into the NHS in as least disruptive and efficient way as possible. So it's really exciting technologies, and you see firsthand how they get to impact on patients. So I'll do my first Chris Whitty impression if that's all right. Next slide, please, Chad. Brilliant, thank you. So the first question is probably who is MSD and then what are we and what do we do? Well, MSD are a global biopharmaceutical leader. That means that we're a truly global organisation that spans countries all around the world and like a huge organisation in terms of biopharmaceuticals. And it's our vision, I suppose, is that we just want to make a difference to people's lives through the products that we do. And I'll touch on those products in the future. And how we do this is to discover, develop products and services that will impact on patients' lives around the world. So it's it's quite a nice thing to wake up every morning and think, actually, what we're trying to do today is actually we're trying to make people live longer and live better, which is quite cool. So next slide, please, Chad. And then how long have we been doing this? How long have we been around? So we've been around for more than a century. You may have heard of us globally as Merck. So Merck is what our company is called in America and Canada. For the rest of the world, we're known as MSD, which is an abbreviation of Merck Sharp Dohme. And we're a large organisation, like I say. We've got last year the revenues of £48 billion. So that's too big a number for me to even imagine. But I suppose what's nice is that kind of a stat that really kind of levels with me is if you were born in the UK, you've probably most likely been exposed to an MSD product. Either you individually or a pet in your house has probably been touched by an MSD product. That's how kind of widespread we are. What you'll see on this as well is something we're really proud of is that R&D, so that's research and development expenses, huge amounts of our revenue we reinvest in research and development. And that's very much the cornerstone of our business, is researching and developing new innovative medicines to serve the people and animals of the world. We're based in America, in New Jersey, and like I say, there are, as of the last count, $74,000. So there are lots of opportunities, which I'll talk on later on. Next slide, please, Chad. So we've got a history. I don't know if Chad's going to be able to play a video here, just talking through our history rather than me talk on that slide.
Yes, it's a little bit now. I am not the most technically minded. I say that to give context that we always do try to share the audio for those watching the recording back. If the audio doesn't play, I do apologise. You're not missing any dialogue over the top, but of course there is a musical track to accompany it. I will provide the link alongside the recording to the career service, and those of you that are here with us live, I'll put it in the chat afterwards so you can watch it at your own leisure.
Brilliant. So if I just continue, Chad, is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. So what you'll see there is basically we've been around for like over 130 years this year, and some of the big advancements in medicine have come from Merck MSD. So from diphtheria to penicillin to things that eradicate river blindness, streptomycin. Huge advancements in medicine have come from MSD, something we're all really proud of. So more recently in my generation, it's things around Ebola. Oh, here we go. The
Sorry, Andrew, I didn't realise I was still sharing the slide, not the video in the background. Hopefully you can see the video okay.
Yeah. So you can see here in the video, it's just talking about all the developments that we've been part of in an organisation, and why we're really proud to work for MSD. Brilliant. Thanks, Chad.
Apologies for the technical ineptness of those sharing the screen. Thank you very much, Andrew. We'll just continue on. From now on, I'm just going to share the whole screen, just in case it happens again. Back over to you.
Just go back. So going back to, if you do next slide, please, Chad, thanks. Here we go. So where are we in the UK? Is to make it more kind of appropriate for our audience today. So our main office is in London, in Moorgate, and Chad will talk about the opportunities there later on in the presentation. We've also got a scientific discovery centre, kind of innovation hub discovery centre in London, where we have some of the world's leading scientists working, linking in with the Francis Crick Institute as well. So really high age cutting science right in the centre of London. We're also building at the moment, we've got planning permission, I believe, and we'll be striking ground in the next couple of years, a new kind of state-of-the-art discovery research centre and head office in London. This will be in King's Cross, right in the centre of London, and will be kind of an amazing centre of housing 150 of the world's brightest and best research scientists, as well as the majority of our head office staff within there. And that's going to be really exciting, right, to be right in the centre of London where it's all happening. We also have our animal health colleagues in Milton Keynes. Again, they're one of the largest providers of animal health products. So if you've got a dog or a cat, or more, come from farming background, you'll probably be very familiar with MSD products from there. And also we've got a small office in Edinburgh as well. So like I say, we've been established in the UK for a long time. We've got over 1,400 employees. There are field employees like myself, so I actually live down the road from you all, down in Tynemouth. But also we've got these head office sites as well. So next slide, please, Chad. Brilliant. So what do we do? So I mentioned before about the research and development, and this, scientific invention is very much the heart of what we do. As a company, from the video, you saw some of the highlights there, but we're one of the first companies to develop medicines to treat hypertension, HIV and hepatitis C. So HIV 20 years ago was a death sentence. Now with the innovative treatments that MSD's created alongside other companies, it's more like a chronic condition. It's like having asthma or diabetes. You can actually live out the rest of your life with it under control. Hepatitis C, again, some heroes of mine, like Anita Roddick, died of hepatitis C. And actually now we're looking at doing an elimination strategy within the UK. So just like things like smallpox and diseases of old that we've eliminated, we're actually looking to eliminate hepatitis C, which is fantastic. So no one ever has to suffer the cruel death of hepatitis C. And again, we talked about the research and development. All of this is driven by the investing in research and development and clinical studies. The scientists on the line will be really excited about this. We're one of the biggest investors in research and development, one of the biggest investors in clinical studies. So we've got over 100 studies in the UK, with thousands of patients participating every year. And what really makes me proud is we don't just go for the low-hanging fruit. We're very much going at where the urgent need is. So, Alzheimer's is a really, really difficult disease to understand and to get effective treatments for. You've probably all read in the news lots and lots of failed attempts at trying to find either a cure or a treatment for this really difficult disease. And we're still in that fight with there. You saw it with the Ebola vaccine, again, something we've done because it's the right thing to do. We're also one of the last companies, very few pharmaceutical companies, that's investing and trying to find new antibiotics. And antimicrobial resistance is going to be one of the greatest challenges we face as a population of the Earth. And we're in there trying to find these new and innovative antibiotics. Personally, I work in the oncology, which is along the left, which is all that cancer. 1 in 2 of us is either going to get cancer at some point in our life. So this is very much everyone's problem. We should all be invested in this. And what we're trying to do is, again, trying to get better treatments, and the treatments that are there, my role is to try and get increased access so more people appropriately can access these medicines and get a better chance of survival. So we help do a whole range of areas that we work in. Like I say, these are global problems, and we're very much led by the patients and where the challenge is. So through the COVID pandemic, we've seen the importance of vaccines. all of you as children will have received vaccines as well. And that's a huge part of our portfolio to try and invent more vaccines and get them better and better for adults and animals as well. I was completely aware of the scale and scope of vaccines we do in animals, but we're protecting them because I suppose healthy animals mean healthy humans, which is all good for us as well. We've touched on the antibiotics, and then cardiovascular disease. Like I say, we were the first company in the world to create a statin. Probably won't know what a statin is. Ask your parents. Most people of them will be on them. It's basically a drug that stops you having heart attacks. Again, and that has, in the UK, that has changed the landscape of why people die early. You know, in the Northeast especially, we used to have very few people get into their 70s and 80s because, unfortunately, because of sometimes the diet and the lifestyle of some parts of the Northeast, they would have heart attacks and die. Now, actually, they're living into their 70s, 80s. You know, really enjoying those later years and then to live life with their grandparents, which is brilliant, really. So next slide, please, Chad. And I suppose this slide just really anchors in, you know, the patients are the purpose of what we do. That's why we chase the best science in our inventions, and it's really the heart of everything we do. Every question we start off with, how will this benefit patients? And if there isn't a patient benefit in there, even in commercial decisions, we don't do it. Because, like I say, we've got every breakthrough we do, every medicine we bring out has the potential to build a healthier, more hopeful future for people everywhere. So that's a really good reason. It's one of the reasons I get out of bed in the morning. So next slide, please, Chad. Cool. So I've talked about what we do. Equally important is how we do it. So this is the corporate responsibility, you know, and it's about how we do it, how we behave, what are our ethics, what are our values, how do we treat our employees, and this is really important to me as an individual. It's important to MSD, and it's one of the reasons I chose MSD to work at. Like I say, the areas we work in are where the greatest burden is. So it's where the greatest unmet challenges are. So actually, the top 20 global burdens for disease, we're addressing them with our either current products or our products in pipeline. So things like dementia, things like antimicrobial resistance, things like cancer, things like heart disease, we're addressing those. Our employees, I'll touch upon this later on, but we really, really value diversity in employment and really value basically the variety of backgrounds and roles that people can have in MSD. And it's one of our strengths is our diversity and inclusion. I'll talk on in a second. My background was environmental studies. I'm really environmentally aware and really active. And I'm really proud that actually, you know, we're by 2040, our goal is to try and be 100% renewable in terms of our electricity sources. We spend a lot of time and money and research into becoming more and more environmentally sustainable as an organization. And then it's the ethics and our values, not just how we behave, but in terms of our supply chain, who we work with. We only work with people who we think have got the values and the ethics and responsibilities that we share. So next slide, please, Chad. So what does this look like in real life? Because a lot of companies can talk the corporate responsibility game, but not really act on it, not really put their money where their mouth is. So MSD is really committed to help reduce maternal mortality worldwide. You know, in certain countries of the world, basically having a baby is very dangerous exercise, and then it has there's areas of really high maternal mortality. So what we've done basically is over the years, stretching to 48 countries, is given over £500 million to initiatives, working through grants and through collaborations with local partners to support improving maternal mortality. And so far to date, we've reached over 13 million women, which is absolutely brilliant. And again, it just shows that corporate social responsibility of us believing when something's the right thing to do, to putting the money and time and investment behind it. Next slide, please, Chad. And this is another example, slightly different. So river blindness and lymphatic filariasis are two diseases which are really debilitating in parts of the developing world, obviously causing blindness and horrific kind of side effects. And you know, in countries like Africa and Latin America and Yemen, these are significant diseases that affect significant amounts of the population. What MSD has done over the last 30 years is committed to donate a product we discovered, we manufacture it, and we donate that for free to these countries. So far, we've given over 3.4 billion treatments to over 44 countries. And what we're trying to do is eliminate this disease. So we know that it's already eliminated from Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala, and Mexico. LF is eliminated from Yemen, Togo, and Malawi. What we would love is to actually make the world kind of eliminated from these diseases. So this is huge, huge corporate social responsibility. Again, with the Ebola virus, this is something we worked with World Health Organization and made it affordable, because that was, you know, these countries that have Ebola don't have the means necessarily of Western countries, but it was a really obviously debilitating disease that we were able to support with, and that's just having a huge impact. And again, these are the things that as MSD employees make you proud to work for this organization. Next slide, please. Chat. So yeah, our people, like I say, next slide again, please. With MSD, it generally feels like, you know, that the people, the colleagues are the most important resource within MSD. And what I found is that we are very much invested in and supported in our professional development to kind of be the best we can be. So I talked before that, you know, as my role evolved, I found myself probably needing some project management qualifications and structure and education effectively. And what MSD has done is basically supported me through a program to become a professional project manager. We've got other colleagues who are doing MSCs as part of their work. Again, it's all fitting in with their professional development. What's also nice is they're very aware and cognizant of the healthy work-life balance. So actually there's lots of programs within MSD, such as Live It, where we have resources that help us achieve that healthy work-life balance, be it through health and, you know, things like cycling, gym membership, things like that, be it through finance in terms of helping with rail passes, or even financial advice from independent advisors, or be it well-being, where we have lots of resources from apps to programs you can sign up to help with the well-being, just to make sure that actually you are fit and well and performing the best you can be within MSD. Next slide, please. And I think it's because of these that all these initiatives, it is, you know, I've just touched on a few there. There's a whole wide range of resources if you just come and work with MSD that would support you in your journey with MSD, that we've been recognised as one of the top employers in Europe for the last 4 years in a row. So, you know, that's by the top employer institute. It's not just ourselves giving ourselves that award as well. I think what's nice as well is that we've been scored highly in our approach to flexible working, employee and career development, collaboration, and on our recruitment practices. One thing Chad and I talked about is, you know, I'm from the Northeast, from working class background, comprehensive school, and actually the way we go around recruiting, we choose the best people who have a passion rather than necessarily the kind of, you know, sometimes more traditional approach, which can be exclude certain individuals. But we're very, very inclusive in our recruitment, which I'm very proud of, and in terms of our workforce. Again, we've been commended on our diversity awareness and encouraging employees to be themselves, which I'll touch on the next slide, Chad. Brilliant. So yeah, I mentioned right at the top, diversity and inclusion, really important. We've got a real strong representation, both at board level, but obviously within our organisation. In the UK, the numbers are actually higher than they are there, which is fantastic. When I first joined the organisation, our country manager, Louise Howson, was a real inspiration, still is. She's now kind of gone into global positions. So it's something that whatever, you know, you can be yourself at MSD. Be that myself, my surfboards in the background, or, you know, be that whatever is your individual circumstance, you can be confident, you can be that person at MSD. Next slide, please, Chad. And this is just a picture just showing some of the initiatives that award-winning initiatives that we run in MSD that really include, you know, encourage you to be yourself at work, and whatever that is, and feel comfortable in that. Again, we've been recognised as a finalist in the Diversity Company category at the National Diversity Awards. That's in over 64,000 entries. We support Pride every year. We've been named one of the most inclusive companies. We've got a lot of initiatives. And I suppose for yourselves watching this, listen to this, my message would be just feel really comfortable and confident that if you were to join MSD, either as a graduate or as an intern, you would be welcomed here. Your thoughts, your views would be welcomed, and you would very much find colleagues and programs to support you in your journey with MSD. Next slide, please, Chad. And final one for me, these are just examples of some of the networks we have that support different individuals within MSD to basically be the best they can be, to proceed, to get career advancement, to give each other support in similar situations. So again, you know, Next Generation Network is for people like Chad and Chandika and Will, who are younger than me. So, but it's every conceivable network is there just to make you thrive in this organisation. So I'd really welcome any questions. I'm going to pass over to Chad now, but at the end, if any questions on this, please do. And I think just to end on, know that MSD is a really strong ethical company where people are allowed to be themselves and really thrive in that situation. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate the overview of MSD, not only as an organisation, but as an employer as well. Thank you so much for volunteering your time to join us this evening. So we're now going to go on to welcome two of our participants on our early talent programs. I'm going to ask Will to introduce it first, and then Chandika, if you could tell us your role is at MSD, the program that you're on, what your division does, and what your background is, a little bit about yourself, you studied, where you studied, etc. Over to you, Will.
So my name's Will. I'm the current finance graduate at MSD, and I'm currently in my first rotation in the ATR team, which is accounting to report. So on my program, which is finance, I cover 3 different rotations across finance in ATR, FPA, and animal health. I've been here about 6 weeks, since mid-September, and before this I was actually at Newcastle University, so I was only where you are about a couple of months ago I finished, so relatively new and fresh student, so I kind of know the process of going through applying for jobs and looking. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Thanks, Will. Over to you, Chandika.
So hi everyone, I'm Chandika and I'm a final year biochemistry student at UCL, and I have joined MSD 3 months ago now, exactly on the 26th of July. So I'm on the cell biology student placement program, and I'm basically based in the discovery team in London here at LBEC, where I'm working mostly doing research on certain diseases and trying to test tool compounds. So I'm more on the research side as compared to Will. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you both, and a special thank you to Tom for sending a message just on the side, letting you know that my voice is cracking up a bit, so I do apologise. I'm going to come a little bit closer to my laptop. I apologise if it's cracked up until this point. I wasn't aware. So the next question, so I'm going to come to yourself, Chandika, and then to yourself, Will. How did you find out about MSD originally? What made you?
Well, I think for me during the pandemic, I think we've all read more than what we wanted about the pharma industry and vaccines. And by doing that myself, I just found out about MSD because obviously one of the biggest, and so MSD has actually an impressive record in vaccines and just inventing and delivering them, as Andrew said earlier. And so I just got to know MSD, and the more I did my research about the history, the pipeline, the culture at MSD, and the more I was convinced that this is where I want to be. And in all honesty, as soon as the application opened, I just applied without even thinking twice. And it was my only application for an industrial placement, and here I am. So that works out for me.
Yeah, so with me, despite so I forgot to mention earlier, my degree was I did a master's at Newcastle in accounting, finance, and strategic investment. So despite doing finance, I'd kind of always had an interest in pharma throughout my 3 years undergraduate and then my 1 year master's. And then it was on the university careers website, I saw that MSD for the first year ever were offering a finance graduate scheme. So I'd always known of the company, kind of what they were doing and their presence in the UK. And then to see a finance graduate scheme in a company like this, I thought for me it was a no-brainer. It's what I wanted to do.
Fantastic, thank you both very much. So the next question I'm going to come to yourself, Will, and then to Chandika. What sort of work do you get the opportunity to be involved in? I know for yourself, well, you've only been with us for a short period of time, but what sort of work have you had the opportunity to be involved in so far as a graduate, and what sort of levels of responsibility do you feel that you have so far?
Yeah, so I've only been here a couple of months, but it's quite varied really. What I'm doing, you get quite a lot of exposure to different things. So with me, I'm working across different entities across human health and animal health in UK, as well as I've been working with Ireland, where there's a strong manufacturing presence, unlike the UK. So from a finance perspective, the balance sheet and the P&L looks very different. So it's been good to get kind of different levels of exposure across different aspects of finance. And I think you are given a relatively high level of responsibility early on. Already I've had kind of tasks where I've taken the lead on and tasks delegated to me myself. So, and I've only been here, probably, I think this is the start of week 7, and I feel like I'm quite independent already. I get to work in the morning and I can crack on. I don't need to go and ask someone for something to do. It's settled quite quickly and you can get to work quite quickly, feel like I've been here a lot longer than 7 weeks. So it's good. I've really enjoyed it.
Fantastic, thank you, Will. Over to you, Chandika.
So for the work that I'm actually doing right now is actually a very interesting drug discovery project that came from the US, from one of the legacy programs. And so I've been involved in multiple stages of it. So for the first few months, I was mostly in the assay development, trying to understand what happens during a specific disease and what goes wrong, what could be targeted. And moving on from that, because obviously research in the pharma industry is much more fast-paced as compared to academia. So I kind of now my interest, all my focus has actually shifted on a different part of the same project because of a recent update, and we needed to change our focus. So I'm now moving on to a different aspect, but equally very interesting and challenging. In terms of the responsibility, I was actually very surprised to see how I was allowed to take ownership of the project, because obviously it's a drug discovery project. You would not trust a student to do the research in the lab without supervision, but that wasn't the case. So they really trusted me, and I was given the freedom to suggest what could be improved, what could be done, and I would just go in the lab and do it, and then present my findings in team meetings as a normal scientist would do. And I think that's a really great opportunity that you might not get everywhere, to be responsible for your work. And also I'm also on the ETF committee, which is an early talent forum. So it's a forum for students and graduates at MSD. So I'm a committee member, and I'm also involved in one of the EBRGs, which is the Lead UK, especially during October for the Black History Month. So we organized a few events. So I've had quite some responsibility roles, I would say, at MSD so far.
Fantastic, thank you both. So first I'm going to come to yourself, Will, again, and then you, Chandika, afterwards. We talked about the culture, and Andrew alluded to it a moment ago. What's the working culture like at MSD? So the people and the way that we operate and work.
I think it's one of the things that surprised me. I think it's very good. There's no kind of feeling as though you're a burden on anyone. I think everyone I've spoken to is always willing to help, whether you kind of directly report to them or not. So I think if you've got a question, people are more than happy to help you. And just around the office, everyone seems very friendly and gets on very well, more like friends rather than colleagues, I think. So things like on Tuesdays, quite a few times we'll go and play football, a few people from the office. So it's things like that kind of not just the working life, but outside the working life. Like in an evening, sometimes after work, we'll chill together for an hour or so. So it doesn't feel like you're here to work and then you go home. It feels like it kind of makes you enjoy work. And yeah, it's a very enjoyable, good place to come to work.
Fantastic. And the Moorgate office ain't too bad either.
No,
Over
there's
to
plenty
you.
here to keep us entertained.
Over to you, Chandika.
Yeah, I mean, just following on from what Will said, the people have been really welcoming from the get-go, and they've always been willing to help and share their experiences in whatever capacity they could. And for me, my supervisor and my manager, they've also shown interest in not only my professional growth, but also my personal growth, by allowing me to be on the ETF committee, to take some time out of the lab in order to go to the Moorgate or St Pancras office, to be involved in the other EBRGs that I said. So it's really about how they really focus not only on the professional aspect, but also on helping you grow as an individual. And that's something which is really nice. And also, I unfortunately don't play football, but with my team, we often go to dinners, or we had a team building event recently, which was really good to kind of meet other people who are working at the Crick. So because the chemistry and the pharmacology teams are both based at the Crick, so we don't get to see them often, but during those, like going out for dinner or for drinks or the team building event, we actually get to meet more people from the other offices. So that's also a really great part of the culture. And something more, I think, is the cross collaborative culture, because I often find myself working or going to meetings and presentations with people based in the US, because loads of the research is done obviously in the US, West Point and Boston. So I would say this very cross collaborative working culture as well is something which I did not expect coming in, but I was really surprised, and it's actually really, really good. So yeah.
Fantastic. Now, looking back to when you were both applying, are there any advice or tips you would give students currently considering internship placements or graduate programs? MSD, Chandika, I'll come to you first, and then we'll come to you after.
That's always the tricky question, isn't it? I would say just do your research, and if the company really is what you're interested in, if that's the case, then you just have to show it, like be curious, be motivated, be passionate, and really convince the hiring managers that you are the best fit, not just for the role, but also for MSD in general. And I think attending events like this, where you get to learn more about MSD as a company and what it does for the people and the sort of resource groups that you have, it actually gives you like extra things that you know what the company does apart from the research, and it would really kind of put you in a good position during the application process. So just show that you're really interested in not just the role, but also the company in general. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Will?
Yeah, for me, I think just echo what Chandika said. I think demonstrate your interest in not just into the MSD as a company, but into the pharma industry as a whole. So kind of know what current affairs are going on, how this is likely to affect the industry and MSD, kind of what MSD's pipeline is looking at. I think demonstrate as much interest as you can in the company. And I think the main part of the application is probably a cover letter. So I think you've got to use that page, or so you've got to show yourself off, show your interest, show why you want to work in the pharma industry, why you want to work for MSD. And I think if you demonstrate that you're passionate and have done the research, I think you should go far. So I think just show a good level of interest and knowledge, I think.
Brilliant. Mind if I jump in there? So as a hiring manager within MSD, I totally endorse what Will and Chandika said. And the candidates who stand out to me, although I don't hire graduates and interns, apologies, but at a global level, are the ones who demonstrate that their values align to MSD's values and how they think, and their ethics, and examples of that. Because it's beyond just, we're often interviewing multiple people with the same academic grades. The differentiating bits are actually they've done the research, like Will and Chandika said, into the organisation, and that passion comes out about the bit I'm interested in MSD because of this value, and that really resonates with me as an individual. That as an employer, as a recruiter, really kind of sends positive signs, and you want to hear more from that. So thanks, John.
Brilliant, thank you, Andrew. Final question for Chantika and Will is around interviews. Looking back to when you've done your interviews for MSD, you may have done one, you may have done two. Is there any tips you'd give students for interview prep specifically, or anything you did that you feel that really helped you when you were going forward for your interviews at MSD or other employers generally? So Chantika, I'll come to you first, and then Will, and then we'll go on to the final section of our presentation.
Yeah, I would say mostly, again, just show that you've done your research and that you're really passionate about it, because when you're writing it, it might not come across as easily as compared to an interview, when it's just this natural flow and you're really connecting with the company. And I would say just be passionate, just tell them and convince them, you know, how your values really align with the core values of the company, as Andrew rightly mentioned. So it's really about using, you know, maximizing that time that you have with the person. It was actually really fun. It was the most, I would say it was the most enjoyable part of the whole application process, because I actually got to speak to people, even though I might not get the job at the end, but it was actually just talking to them and learning about what they've done so far at MSD. It was really interesting. So just think of it as a conversation of something, you know, it's really useful, even whatever the outcome might be in the end. So just don't focus on the outcome, but just enjoy it as it goes along.
Yeah, for me, I think the interview, kind of like Chandik said, just rather than an interview, just treat it as discussion with whoever's interviewing you. I think if you go in and naturally be yourself and express kind of your interest in the company, your interest in the industry, and your interest in the particular program you're going for, I think you'll go far. And another thing I did for my interviews was at Newcastle, is the careers team were really good. Kind of, you can go to them, they can do practice interviews with you. So I remember I did a couple of them, and it's amazing kind of the amount of questions that employers, just not just MSD, but employers over different employers, they just copy of each other. So if you just practice with them, with the careers service, there's bound to be a couple of questions. So the competency ones, tell me about a time when you did this. Just practice those, and especially with the career service, it's there available for you. Just I'd make the most of that, which really helped me with my interviews.
Will, Chandika, thank you so much for volunteering your time to join us this evening. We are now going to go on to the final part of their presentation. Thank you both for your insights and experiences. So I, at the risk of breaking a promise, I said we was going to have 10 minutes at the end for questions. I do apologise, but I will go through this particular section as quickly as possible, because if you do have any questions after the presentation today, I will give you our team's email address, and you can email us directly any specific questions you have in regards to opportunities that we have and our application process. Now I'm going to come a little bit closer to my laptop because I'm conscious that I'm a little bit crackly, and I won't find out until after. So what does MSD offer? So we offer two different types of programs. I mean, we offer PhD programs as well, but those are recruited for separately. So today we are talking about 12-month internship placement programs. Those start in the summer of every year, usually around the last Monday of June, typically, though that may be around mid-July, maybe in 2022. We offer opportunities across all the different areas of our business. So irrespective of your degree background, we don't hire just scientists. If you don't have a scientific degree, we've got so many opportunities that don't require a specific degree discipline, or some that do, that require a degree in business or IT or finance, etc. There is something for everyone at MSD. So if you like what you heard today and want to have a look at some of our opportunities, I do encourage you to do so, because most of our opportunities don't require a specific degree to do them. Now, the feedback that we get, and I think you've got a little bit of a sense from this already from Will and Chandika, is the students on our programs really enjoy their time at MSD. As Andrew mentioned earlier in the presentation, we are truly a fantastic employer. Not only our students enjoy working for us, but also all of our other employees do as well. So I guarantee you will have a great time with us if you do join us on one of our placement programs. If you are finishing up your degree and you are looking for a graduate opportunity, we do offer 24-month graduate opportunities. Those start in around the late summer towards the early autumn of every year, probably around August time, if not very late July. And we have opportunities across both our human and animal health sectors. Now, the key selling point of our graduate program, like many, is that it is rotational. The premise being is that it gives you the opportunity through your 2-year program with us to get a variety of experiences from different business areas, so that when you finish your program, whether you choose to stay at MSD or if you choose to venture outwards to a different employer in the market, you've got so many different skills and experiences to take with you. So for 2022, we have lots of different opportunities, whether that be in marketing, IT, business insights, L&D, the list goes on and on. For those that do have a particular interest in the sciences, at a internship level, of course, we do have laboratory placements that are based in King's Cross. We also do have many office-based opportunities that have a scientific focus, whether that be in quality and development, regulatory affairs, medical affairs, clinical research, etc. We also have opportunities within marketing, finance and procurement, IT, and the brand and customer manager roles, which are marketing facing roles, but they also do have a sales element to them as well. A huge number of opportunities there. So I will provide the link to the list, all of them, at the end of the presentation. And again, if you do have a look through them and you have a question, you're not sure on a particular thing, do send us a note. Again, I'll give you our email address at the end. Now, it says the deadline for these roles is the 31st of October. For some of them, it will be. So in particular, those that are looking at applying for the laboratory-based placements, clinical research, or the graduate positions within finance or regulatory affairs, those will be closing on Sunday, so Sunday night specifically. The majority will stay open for just a little bit longer. So if you're interested in the other opportunities, then I would encourage you to apply sooner rather than later, but you have a little bit longer to do so. The MSD application process is very short, intentionally so. So we have a short application form. It's a standard application form that you would have experience at other employers. So just ask for personal information, academic, work experience, etc. And it will have 2 motivational questions in there as well. Why MSD and why are you applying for this particular role? Only around 150 words required for each of those responses. So you're looking at a short paragraph for each of them, and that's it. You upload your CV with that, and then that's reviewed by our team in HR. If you are successful, the application will then be reviewed by the hiring manager, and if you're successful at that stage, you'll either go through a numerical and verbal reasoning assessment. Now, that's for the roles that require, that are very numerically heavy. So lab-based roles, many of our R&D roles, or of course a role within like finance or procurement. If you haven't done a numerical and verbal assessment before, so psychometric testing, speak to your career service, see if they have any practice papers. Many of them do. But if you are looking for additional resources as well, there are organizations that have been producing these papers for many years for employers across the industry. So some of the names you've already heard of, like SHL, you have CUTI as well, so CT''E, they're now called Aon, I believe. You also have the CEB and Gartner, so GARTNER, or you could just Google them as well. There's many, many practice papers, and I'd highly encourage you, if you haven't seen one of these before, is practice them before you do the real thing. For all other roles, you'll do an online video interview assessment, and then our final assessment is virtual. It is a panel interview from around 2 to 3 interviewers at a time. The interview will last between 60 and 80 minutes, and there's an additional element right at the start, a short presentation, but details of that will be given if you are successful and go on to that stage. We have many social media handles. If you are going to follow any of them, I'd highly encourage you to follow our LinkedIn. So it's MSD in the UK LinkedIn. There is all of our news stories, but you also get all of the roles. All of our roles are automatically posted there the moment they become available. So I'd highly encourage you, if you are looking to find out more, to follow us on there. That is everything from us this evening. Thank you so much for your time and attention this evening. I'm going to hand back to Tom I've given us 5 minutes at the end here. In the event that anyone has any questions, but if you do have questions, but you want to ask them via email instead, I will give our email address shortly as well after I stop sharing my screen. Back to you, Tom.
That's great. Thank you, Chad. Some great stuff there. I will keep the recording on for any questions in case there's any students who are watching this video a little bit later and are thinking the same things, which often happens. So yeah, go ahead, ask away. And if there's none right now, I'm sure Chad will pop the email address into the chat, and then I'll stop the recording and we'll wrap up. So I'll hand back to you very, very briefly, Chad.
Fantastic. So I don't see any questions just yet. So we'll give it probably around a minute or so. Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. Hi. Thank you very much for everyone. Like, it was really insightful, and it really encouraged me to kind of like apply because it seems really, really interesting. But like, one of the questions that I have, I'm a pharmacy student, and like our kind of like program is kind of very restricted in like what we can kind of like sign up for. So I wanted to ask, do you, aside from the programs that you were mentioning that you have, do you have like any like summer internships or like anything like for pharmacists, kind of like a foundation or pre-reg like program? Or is there like a chance of like me doing that and then like leaving like for the next year doing like the graduate program, just to kind of find out what my options are? Thank you.
Excellent question. So we currently here in the UK, we don't offer summer internships. It's only the 12-month program. In regards to pre-reg, unfortunately, I don't believe there's anything. I don't think we offer it currently. But what we could do is if you take our team email address and then me and you can connect separately, and we can discuss some of the resources that we have available for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we wrap things up? Got a question from a member of the audience. I'm just going to repeat it for the benefit of those watching the recording back. Is, wouldn't it be difficult to manage both academic workload and placement work simultaneously? I think Chandika, you may be best placed to answer this question. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yep. So thank you so much for your question. To be honest, I don't think it's two different things at this point, because the academic workload would be a thesis and then a presentation or a poster or something like that. But it's all about the work that you're doing. So as I've mentioned, even if you don't have that, you still have to give presentations during the, not weekly, but about monthly team meetings. So you're already putting together like presentation slides about your project, what you've done so far, what your results are, and you're just discussing about it, you know, with other colleagues. So I would say it's the same thing. So if you have an on-site presentation, as I have, or any other like poster presentation or a thesis, all the materials are there. So you're already doing that as part of your placement. So the academic workload isn't an extra thing that comes off at the end or something. So it's just a part of your placement. So it isn't really hard, to be honest.
Thank you, Chandika. I hope that answers the question. What I got around.
Would it be okay there? Sorry, Chad, just to interrupt. Timothy, I don't know what you study, but the way this works is it's normally a placement like this is done between your second and your third year. So there is an academic element to it, and you would study a module, but it's all done remotely and it's all done to complement the work that you're doing and help you to develop your employability skills. So what I'll do is I'll pop a link in there for you just from a university perspective about what the academic side of a placement is, but it is deliberately made so that, as Chandika said, it's part of your placement rather than an additional thing. So you wouldn't be, for example, doing your final year at the same time as a year-long placement, because that would be very difficult to manage. So I'll pop a link in so that you can have a read, Timothy, and if anyone else would like to as well. It's all on the Careers Service website. But sorry, I hope you don't mind me jumping in there. I just wanted to explain that a little bit.
No, that was brilliant. So before we hand over back to you, Tom, because we now hit 6 o'clock, I do have a question just from our panelists. We got asked it in the last presentation that we did. I've probably got people thinking, is if you could summarize MSD in one word, what would it be? So I'm going to go over to Andrew first, and then Will, and then Chandika, and then Tom, we'll hand it back over to you to close things up.
I would say authentic.
Yeah, for me, it's hard to kind of summarize so much into one word, but I think inclusive would be the word. You kind of get everything from it, not just the kind of the diversity and inclusion, but kind of the way the program includes, kind of does basically covers everything you really need to know within a subject. So yeah, inclusive is what I'd use.
Brilliant.
For me, it's just something similar to Will. So it's diverse, because I would say ever since I got in, I've met people, from diverse backgrounds. I've worked on diverse projects. So everything is just, the opportunities are diverse, everything. So I would say diverse is the word to describe MSD.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much for your contributions and presentations this evening. Tom, we are now out of time for this evening. For those of you that are watching the recording back, I hope you've enjoyed it. And thank you very much to those that have joined us live. Back to you, Tom.
Great. Thank you so much to all of you. I thought that was fantastic. And everybody, the advice that you've just heard, make sure you remember it all, because it's invaluable for all of your applications. I'm going to stop the recording now.